Uh, uh, Thank you for accepting my invitation and accepting to be on my show.
Thank you. Well, I'm always honored to talk with different people.
So I have gone through your profile and I came to know that you are into uh, you have completed your masters and you are you are into the further studies.
Yeah. Um I'm really into the technology side of things, and a lot of what I've done as far as academic work has been centered around technology. Um, as I mentioned in our last interview, I have I have programming certificates in several languages, including Python. I have the degree in computer science and a degree in biology, plus the associate's degrees in computer programming and web development. So, what I'm really into is just looking at technology and looking at how I can be creative with that technology. And that relates to what I want to do with my doctorate from Regent University. I would like to take the theory that I am learning and apply that to the cybersecurity industry and come up with creative and innovative solutions to solve a lot of the challenges that cybersecurity people face. The issue with hacking. In our country, we had something called the Colonial Pipeline hack, where hackers hacked into the pipeline and caused massive lines at gas stations. And that was a coordinated effort of malicious people overseas. And thankfully, our president authorized funding for cybersecurity and cyber threats. But that was an attack that shouldn't have never materialized in the beginning. We should have had we should have had critical cybersecurity infrastructure to mitigate a lot of those situations. And a lot of that goes back to an issue with leadership and an issue with poor strategies. So as I mentioned this in my first what we call dialogue for my program, that one of the goals is to take this doctoral program and use it to develop better strategies. And not only in cybersecurity, but also in another area, which is data science. So, right now, I'm thinking long term in terms of the project. Even though I haven't had a lot of my courses yet, I'm thinking strategically and long term, which is something that doctoral students are actually recommended to do when they first start out, is to have a good idea of what their area is. The good news in my doctoral program is that I don't have to create anything original for my project. I have to create something that would benefit the community and benefit organizations and companies. So that is in a nutshell what I aim to do with the doctoral program. That is my aim as I go through and proceed through and take the classes for that.
So you understood the flaws in the cyber security and you decided to put some more thoughts of yours in order to overcome uh, the flaws and you decided to do the leadership program and you are into it now.
Cybersecurity issues fall down to an issue of leadership, not what you would think of as conventional leadership, but leadership in terms of why things happen, why companies get attacked, why companies have to deal with ransomware, which is a big issue right now. And why do companies actually pay the ransom rate? the so-called ransom, when it is recommended by cybersecurity experts that you do not do that. So it's just, IT is a wonderful field, but I think with better approaches to leadership and better approaches to work on organizational dynamics and organizational culture and strategic dynamics, I haven't even mentioned broadening participation in a lot of these areas. That's something I haven't even mentioned, but it is an issue, and it's something that is discussed quite a bit. How do we, without lowering standards, bring people who are underrepresented into the technology space? So there's a couple of interests that I have, and I will be very interested in pursuing those interests and following through those interests and seeing how those interests pan out in terms of strategic leadership. My concentration is strategic foresight. So we look at the analytics side of things and look at analytics, look at data, look at structure, and try to look at trends that will affect the workplace. One of the trends that we already see is remote work. And post pandemic, it's going to go from fully remote to hybrid, where you do part remote and part in a co-located office. In some fields like insurance, for example, you are required, believe it or not, by law to have an actual physical office. That's the way those companies work, because they will not work with agents if you don't have anything, if you're not in a tangible location. That's an example of a situation where remote work can be a problem. So just looking at all my goals and thinking through my goals, one of the things that brought me to the doctoral program was just this notion of just being a leader. What is a leader? What is a follower? Why do leaders and followers need each other? Why do we see scandals in the technology space? Not just the technology space, but because I'm at a Christian university, why do we have scandals in the religious space as well? So, and it boils down to leaders and followers, and it boils down to one thing, which is the person. The person is the factor when it comes to leadership and followership, and the literature tells us that.
Tell me more about yourself.
Okay. Other than being a doctoral student, I am in my mid to late 40s. I don't look my age. I enjoy reading. I enjoy cooking, traveling, dancing, singing. I'm just a normal person. Um, I am still working through a little bit through my mom's death in 2016. So I'm still working through those issues. So as far as that, I am doing well. I live in a town called Spindle, North Carolina, and that is an hour and 30 minutes west of Charlotte, and about another hour and 20 minutes south of Asheville, North Carolina. And we're close to the North Carolina South Carolina border. So our area, our town, our county is situated near the Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson area in South Carolina, and Charlotte, Mecklenburg, Gastonia, and even to Shelby to the east of us, and then Asheville and Morganton and those places to the west of us. So we are what we are. So my hometown is in what is called the foothills. So that's a little bit more about myself.
Tell me more about the projects that you did.
Okay, a lot of the projects I did, I will tell you several things that I've done that really was good experiences. The one that sticks out in my mind was Game to Learn. In 2015, I pursued a graduate certificate in information technology management at UNC Charlotte. And I took the intro to game development course, and that was the very first time that course was offered. So I was in on the ground floor of that, and at the time, game development was starting to mature, and game development was starting to become more widespread at the time. From that course, the instructor developed a research project because one of her goals was to bring in people who are underrepresented into computing classes. And back in 2005, there had been an effort by the Association of Computing Machinery through their special interest group in computer science education to address the issues of why specifically women were not going into computer science. And I happened to read the book by Lenore Bloom about that and just look at what was keeping women out. And what was keeping women out was keeping people of color out, was keeping LGBTQ people out of the field. And so the project centered on the intro courses, which are what we were called gateway courses. And gateway courses are the courses that you have to go through in order to essentially get into the program or proceed through the program. And there were statistics at the time saying that people in minority categories were not doing well in those gateway courses. So what was proposed was developing a computer game that would teach the concepts of basic computer science. But there was a snag in that program, and I remember it very clearly. And the snag was building the compilers to where people can actually code within the game. What at the time we were constrained by what we were using. We were using 3D Game Studio for a couple of semesters. Then we decided to use Unreal. And at the time, before Unreal released their engine completely to developers and creators as they do now, if you wanted to work with Unreal, you had to literally go to GameStop or Walmart and buy Unreal Tournament to get access to the modding tools that was in the game. And Epic Games was really particular about their technology, and they were because after we moved to that engine, if we wanted to use the full engine at the time, we had to pay licensing fees. And that would mean that Dr. Tiffany Barnes would have to write a grant to get the license. And it would have to be in a way to where all the researchers, student researchers, um, herself, and some other people, would have to have access to that in order for the project to proceed. And this project was within a greater lab environment called the Future Computing Lab. It's now known by another name now, but basically that lab dealt with virtual humans and virtual chatbots and chatting with virtual characters and trying to look at the psychology in dealing with a virtual partner or a virtual character. There was also research dealing with medical and computer vision as well. So it was called the Future Computing Lab because it dealt with what we would do in the future. And then midway, when I actually became a full master's student, I took a course on voice activated interfaces, and that course dealt with voice XML. Now, a lot of technology that I learned back then, I wouldn't say it's obsolete, but it's improved to where we're not so dependent on that backwards technology anymore. So that's a project that stuck out in my mind. And also UNC Charlotte, where I did my first graduate work, was really strongly known for its cybersecurity program. They have and still have this Carolina Cyber Defenders Scholarship, and ran a successful they've ran for many years a successful cybersecurity one-day conference that happens in October, and they've done this successfully for almost several years now, 6, 7, or 8 years. So UNC Charlotte is big on several areas. One of these areas is cybersecurity. One of the other areas is human-computer interaction. The other areas include virtualization, gaming technology. Another area is networking technology. So having that background, then going to Colorado Technical University to do the master's there, and actually completing the master's in September 2020, opened my eyes to a lot of stuff because I was in online classes with people who worked in industry. They worked in the military. And as I mentioned before, those programs at the time have had a strong component of project management. So that's yet another thing that I want to sort of pursue with the doctoral program, because project management is the key to improving cybersecurity, improving the experience in data science and analytics. So that's basically, in a nutshell, the projects that stood out to me the most.
So now, what is your subject in doctoral program?
Okay, it is the Doctor of Strategic Leadership, and my major or my concentration is strategic foresight. Those courses don't come until around about the second year, because there are 15 courses that I have to take prior to that everybody takes within that program. So that is basically what I am taking. What I'm taking right now is foundational stuff. University 500 is just an introduction to graduate level writing. That's self-paced. Same course is the course called Leaders and Followers, and this is a course where we had the first residency, and that first residency was the first week of that course. So now that residency is over, we're now going through the dialogues and going through the motions on leaders and followers. Because as I mentioned earlier, the factor that brings leaders and followers together is the people factor. So, and later on, around about the 21st of June, they've already opened up access to the organizational culture and values course. And that is another foundational course, because with leaders and followers and with the people factor, you now have to look at the culture. And one of the issues that people have mentioned in cybersecurity has been the cultural issue. Do you have a true culture of true security? Do you have a true culture of accountability for the use or misuse of systems and of network infrastructure? So basically, in that course, we will be looking at codes of conduct, professional codes of conduct. I'm sure that we'll look at some issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, something that people are really talking about right now. So really, I'm at the beginning stages there. Later on, we'll take the exegesis course, and the exegesis course is the course where we're looking at the biblical foundations of leadership. And I forgot the other course that I'm taking in the fall, but by the time the year is over, I would have taken at least 5 or 6 courses within the program. So these program courses are 8 weeks in duration. So we plow through those courses, in a pretty rapid fashion. So one of the things that I am planning to do, I have a success coach, and I've been doing success coaching because they actually recommend that you use all the resources that you can because they make it available to you to be successful because that is their goal is to be successful, and they look at it as a process. So while grades are important in that program because you have to maintain a 3.0 to stay in the program, the emphasis is process and the emphasis is personal growth. How have you grew as a researcher? How have you grew as a doctoral student? How have you grown to the point that they can actually call you doctor? So in that case, I'm looking to do some things that are over and beyond what it would be expected what is expected from me in the classes, but actually doing some publishing and writing outside of the program on my own and looking at journals because that's just something that I'm doing that I'm just strategizing throughout the program because I find that at least having a strategy and having and finding my why will help me get through blocks, which I did hit a block on my first assignment, on my first technical assignment, and that's something that you're not going to be able to avoid, but it's something that you can work through. So we have a very supportive faculty. They want us to be excellent in everything that we do, but they want to walk us, towards that spirit of excellence. And that's what we aim to do because the motto of the university is Christian leadership to change the world. And when it's all said and done, it's about being world changers and making the planet and our world a better place for leaders and followers so that all can blossom and succeed. So in terms of what I'm doing right now is just the foundations because before you can look at things like strategic foresight and human resources dynamics and ecclesial leadership, which is basically how do you work out leadership within the local church. The thing about ecclesial leadership is that this school also has a doctoral ministry program, and sort of some of the same things that they do there are probably what is being done in ecclesial leadership. But it's like looking at those things in terms of the church environment. There are people from the military in my program. There are actual pastors that are in this program. So there is a good group of people, a good core of people that from a variety of environments and backgrounds, and we've all come together into this program to learn what it is to have healthy leadership, what it is to be a healthy follower. How do you avoid the pitfalls of leadership and followership? So that is in a nutshell what I am doing right now. And I think in another year or so, I'll be ready to at least put at least one journal article and submit it because I'm looking at the journal articles right now. And also, even though I'm getting the help from the university, I'm also looking at other resources. YouTube, there's several former PhD students and current PhD students that have actual channels where they go through that process. As I mentioned in our last interview, the conventional PhD is 1 to 2 or maybe 3 years of coursework. You have comprehensives based on that coursework. You pass comps. They give you like maybe two tries for comps. Then you go before a committee and put together a dissertation proposal. You defend a proposal. They approve it, and then you go through 2 years of writing a dissertation, and then you defend it to a committee of people, and they either say, for lack of a better term, yay or nay. In this program, it's strongly based on coursework with a significant project at the end. So it is akin to what you would get if you get a Doctor of Business Administration. It is a specialized credential, but it is still a doctoral. credential, and you can easily use the DR period notation in front of your name. So that is in a nutshell what I am doing.
So after becoming doctor, after completion of your studies as a doctor, what you want to change in the IT industry? What you feel that this should be changed? This is not the way it should run in this way. So what you want to change? What are your plans and what are your your thoughts that you want to change when you after completion of your complete studies?
Basically, my goal is not to change anything, but to make things better. I think it would be criminal to just walk into an organization and say you need to change this and you need to change that. That is not what I aim to do. What I aim to do is number one, do research, publish in journals, and actually not just publish in journals that deal with leadership, because leadership is technically a social sciences topic, and this is a topic in social sciences and organizational psychology, but also publish also in the technology journals, publish in the ACM and IEEE journals as well. And it will be a mix of stuff with leadership and followership, and also just basic scientific research in terms of analytics and dealing with data and looking how we can use data to improve. My aim in trying to make things better in cybersecurity is one of improvement and not one of just let's just change this because I said well as I say so and because I'm a researcher. No, that's not what I want to do. What my aim is to come up with just better ways of doing things, but understanding the culture before I start making changes, and that alludes to another aspect of my long-term plans, which is consulting. The final thing is to teach at the college level. The doctorate program does let you teach at that level, and you're able to find positions as a faculty member in a lot of places. And I can actually use that to get onto IT and computer science faculty. That would be a stretch, but I would be able to work through that. But right now, the immediate goal is to make sure that I'm okay course wise. And then the long term goal would be to plan the academic career. And I'm doing that even as I am going through the first few courses right now and seeing what's ahead and seeing how I can be successful and actually trying to take my knowledge and put it in a project of some shape or form. So the long-term problem, when I mention improving cybersecurity, it's not going into an organization and saying we're going to change this, we're going to change that, but going into the organization, understand how leaders and followers interact, understanding the culture of the organization, understanding the ethical foundations in that organization, and if they're developing it in a wholesome, constructive way so that there is a culture of cyber of security conscious employees, for lack of a better term. But that's something that I will work out as I continue through the program. That goal will be refined many times, but it's helpful when you start a doctoral program to sort of just put together a rough goal of your rough understanding what you would call the end game of the program. And then as you go through your courses, you'll refine that and you'll be better able to articulate it better because that's also a part of the doctoral process. The doctoral process is not just going through their coursework and trying to make sense of the coursework, make sense of assignments, but it's also on the other side, just understanding your process of journey as a scholar practitioner, because eventually you will be given a degree and you will be considered a scholar practitioner. And Regent University does something different when you have commencement. You have commencement, and then you have something beforehand called commissioning. When you are commissioned into your field, you are commissioned as a Doctor of Strategic Leadership recipient. You are commissioned as a MDiv in their School of Divinity, commissioned to pastor and lead churches in the United States and throughout the world. You're commissioned in School of Business Leadership to become accountants and to get your MBA. So they have a strong understanding of call and commission and being commissioned to do the things that you're doing. And that commission is not just commissioning people for ministerial work, but commissioning people to become lawyers with their law school. So basically, with that end game in mind, and with me continuing through my coursework, I can better refine what it is that I want to accomplish in the program. And that is just a part of the doctoral program process, is looking at short-term, long-term goals and then refining them as you get through certain milestones in the program. Because it's been said that what people do in their doctoral programs and what they do as scholars when they leave the program are two separate things. What they did as doctoral students, they're not doing as actual practitioners. They're actually looking at an area and specializing in an area that might be different from what they've studied. So that's basically the journey that I am on right now. And I keep mentioning the term journey because it is a journey. It has bumps and bruises, like the mental block I encountered last week with one of my assignments. Mental blocks are a part of it. That's something, as I mentioned earlier in our interview, that's something that is very unavoidable, but it's something to just work through. And there are resources that we can take advantage of, and are often told we need to take advantage of those resources. But once you get through the block, you continue through your courses, but the thing that you keep telling yourself is that you can do it. It may get a little hard, may get a little bumpy, but you can do it. And they tell you don't give up. And that is a lot different than your conventional doctoral programs, which doesn't have that kind of growth mentality and developing yourself personally and personal growth, which is something that I keep coming back to. We do have there is expectation of strong academic performance, but they also know that you have to walk it through and walk and work up to that purpose. And they do work with you. And if you feel like you need to take time from the program and come back, they are more than willing to work with you for that. And another thing that they have told us is that they pray for us on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. So they lift us up in prayer at Regent to make sure that we are successful. Because basically, this is a holistic program, and they're looking at your progress for spirit, soul, and body, which is another thing that I did not mention, that Regent is Pentecostal, and it was founded by M.G. Pat Robertson, who is a Pentecostal, who is a Southern Baptist pastor that received the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and he started a broadcasting empire that includes and still includes this day a program called the 700 Club, which is still aired in many markets in the United States. And he decided back in the 70s, early 80s, that he wanted to develop a university where people can come and get trained and become and have impact on society and have a positive impact. Before they became Regent University, they called themselves CBN University. So that is an interesting history because it was CBN University, and then they actually had an actual network called the Christian Broadcasting Network, and then they sold it, and that became the Family Channel, and then they sold it to Disney ABC, and that became the ABC Family Channel, and I think after that point they sold it to another entity, and I don't know what that network is. So basically, in growing up watching this show with my mom, I've seen the progression of that ministry to where they are at now as Regent University. And one of the biggest concentrations there is film and television. That is the bread and butter. That is a foundational major for undergraduates and graduate students alike, because people come out of that program going into Broadway, making movies. Some of them are actors and actresses. Some of them have won Academy Awards. Some people have won Grammys. So it's really, when you look at the fact that you're at a university where you share space with people who have done wonderful things in society, some good and sadly some bad, it kind of impresses upon you that you are standing on the shoulders of giants. And when you stand on the shoulders of giants, you can accomplish great and wonderful things. And so, getting back to the Doctoral Strategic Leadership Program, it might be an executive doctoral program, but it's a program that you end up getting more out of it than even the faculty members. And they told us from day one that they see us not as students but as colleagues. So that gives us the motivation to do our best. We can't always be perfect. We can't always get it right all the time, and they know that, and they told us that you're not going to get it right all the time, but that they still see us as colleagues. And as colleagues, we bounce ideals off of each other, because that's how academia works. It's just a free exchange of ideals. I know there's some issues with cancel culture and stuff like that, but that's something that does not even come into my mind, because I believe that I'm in an environment where we can broach difficult topics, and there are actual academic courses on those difficult topics, and to find ways to make those things better so that we develop healthy leadership, healthy followership, healthy organizations. Because the at the end of the day, it's about making organizations and businesses and companies strong, healthy environments that develop strong competitive advantage, that can be marketable and can do well in the marketplace.
So, in the part of your studies, uh, what are the things that you observed in the top organizations? What is working in top organizations between leaders and followers?
Well, I'll go to the current one of my current courses, leaders and followers. There's tons of literature on leaders, and there's a ton of literature on followers. And the first step is to just define what is a leader, what is a follower. And there are people such as Chalif that's written extensively on this. Kellerman has written some stuff on that. And these people not just have not just done stuff on followership, but they've actually looked at the leadership side of things and understand what's going on with that. There's a wonderful body of research that just deals with just the general concept of leadership in general. And with a lot of that literature, we're seeing that the way we look at those two topics have progressed from the 1900s up until the 21st century. And what we do now is not what they do then, and what we're doing now might be exponentially times better, but at the same time can be exponentially times worse. For example, there's the 3x, 3y, 3x, 3y, 3z. Sorry about being so tongue-tied. But those are the theories that you see more so in manufacturing environments. One of those theories is the more do it and do it now. And the theory Z is more of let's develop a growth mentality among people on the factory floor. That's an example of that. We might cover that and we might not, but that would be something that we can pursue in our studies, in our assignments. There are there are specific assignments where you have to do things specifically, but there will also be assignments where we will be able to pursue a topic and pursue a path, and we can walk through and trace that topic throughout the years and throughout the decades. So, and that's essentially what doctoral study is you have an interest, you come to faculty saying this is my interest, and the faculty encourages you through literature reviews and possibly publishing a few review papers, which would give you a head start on the dissertation because that is considered a chapter in your dissertation, and you've already finished that already, and you have published works, and it is not unusual for doctoral students to have their published works, and with the help of writing tutors and writing coaches and dissertation coaches, add transitions and string maybe 6 or 7 strong research papers together into a strong dissertation. That is not unusual. But in looking at what leadership and followership is, we don't have lectures, so the only way we can really walk through this topic and try to work this topic out is through the whole concept of dialogues, which is a step above what you consider a discussion board assignment, where it's actually more of a conversation because we do not have formal lectures. It is an online program. So the next best thing that they could do so that we can have interaction and develop and continue a scholarly conversation is to do what I call dialogues, where there's a main post and they respond to 3 other people, but they strongly encourage you to spread it over the 2 week period that surrounds your dialogue and your projects. In other words, you don't want to do things several times in a row. That was okay because our first dialogue was about our takeaways from the residency. But with what we're doing this time, it's good to have a dialogue post and a response post maybe this week, and then respond to 2 other people next week to just spread it out so that it feels like a real conversation. And kids say keep it within 4 posts and no more, because if you go beyond 4 posts, then it's going to seem that you're dominating the conversation. So the really the emphasis in the courses is you're in a conversation with your peers and with the instructor on leaders and followers, and you're engaging in this constructive, sometimes contentious, I haven't seen this yet, but conversation about why there is a concept of leadership, why there is a concept of followership, what are the pitfalls and what are the benefits. So that's yet another thing that I am finding out with this program, is that it's not just a course. I'm not just taking a course, but even in the University 500 course, it is a conversation. And that course is a conversation on success strategies at Regent. It's a conversation about using, making sure that your grammar is okay. They give us grammarly premium for us, and we can use that, and they encourage us to use it. and it's free for us, so we can do that and just check our grammar. And I also have also has a plagiarism checker, which is pretty good. Sometimes the checker is a little too good and calls out stuff that does not make any sense. And what they're considering as plagiarism is really just pattern matching and just saying this looks plagiarized. Look at this source and see if this is true. So, really, if there's one thing that I would say I'm doing right now in the courses is engaging in a scholarly yet down to earth conversation about just being a good leader or even being a good follower or a combination of the two. So I would say right now is conversations. Conversations.
So, at last, do you have anything to say to the organizations and the people who are working in different organizations in different parts of the world who's listening and watching our conversation now? Do you have anything to say to them?
Well, what I would say to organizations is that nobody's perfect. Everybody's trying to be their personal best internationally. Even in a global pandemic, we all are struggling. We all are trying to do the best we can and to try to adjust, not, and I hate this term, new normal, but actually a more stronger, healthier, compassionate, justice, and liberating normal, where we're getting back to normal, but we are looking out for our neighbor. We are becoming our neighbor's keeper without being what you would consider a busybody, but actually being our neighbor's keeper and just trying to be nice and kind to each other. So I think we will see a future of kindness and loving and kindness and justice and assertiveness where we will be able to just speak, where we will be able to speak our piece, say what we have to say, and do it assertively, but also do it in a spirit of kindness and meekness and gentleness, actually personifying the fruit of the spirit in Galatians chapter 5. So what I'm saying to organizations is that keep doing what you're doing, but open the door for people to come in and just help you have those uncomfortable conversations, because one of the things in growth is discomfort, and not discomfort because we're creating discomfort, but discomfort in the sense that you are wanting to grow, and part of the growth process is some level of discomfort. I mentioned diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the discomfort might be for another black male to be around openly gay men. And not only openly gay men, but openly gay men that might be a little feminine, that might be into RuPaul's Drag Race, or actually might actually be drag queens when they're not, working with people. So basically, it's basically going back to conversations, having those uncomfortable conversations, being in those spaces of discomfort, so we all can grow. So I would say engage in those uncomfortable conversations, whether you're in the entertainment industry, whether you're in manufacturing, construction, whatever sector you are in. Having those uncomfortable conversations is going to strengthen your company and it's going to strengthen your bottom line, because now you see things through that other person's eyes that you may not have been aware of, or you may have been doing things that may have been a trigger or an offense to somebody. And I know there's also literature about microaggressions, and that also relates to leadership, because some issues of leadership and followership deals with the whole concept of microaggressions. There's some people that say because we look at these issues, you're trying to be woke. That's another term that's being thrown around. And basically, what I would like to do with this degree program is just bring people together. not just because the diversity, equity, and inclusion person says you have to do it, but sometimes it's just you and just a few of your coworkers and engaging in those intense, controversial, but life changing conversations and looking at each other as individuals and see what they can bring to the table. Because when you have diversity in those areas, you can develop better products, you can develop better services, you can improve, you can actually create legislation that gives to a country or a state rather than take from them. So basically, the thing what I would say to organizations is you're okay, you're doing some great things. You may not do it perfectly and you may be doing some things wrong, but our goal is to make sure that you are okay at the end, that you are meeting those targets, those financial targets, but doing it in the way to where those in a way where you develop people personally, you develop a growth mindset and help each other grow from the CEO down to the mail worker. Everybody plays a part, everybody has a role. And by treating each other right, you can create transformational change in ways that you would not even imagine. So that's what I would say to organizations. And when some of us DSL students come to an organization, we do not come in a spirit of we're going to change this, we're going to change that, but what is what are people saying? What are the issues that are coming up? What can we do that would help you? Another thing with our assignments is that some of these assignments are not just for faculty to grade us and to critique us, but these are things that we can take into organizations. So when my instructor, Dr. Patterson, said that about our PowerPoints, that really made an impression on me because now it's no longer what is in it for me and for my instructor, but what is in it for an organization that might want to look at 5 things to do to improve their leadership and followership culture, to develop a culture of leadership. And going to leadership development is not for managers. Leadership development is for the regular worker. We realize that not everybody can be the boss, but everybody can learn strategies and principles of leadership. Everybody can use that. And so these assignments are not just things that we submit and get a grade for, which we do get a grade for. But these are things that once we get the grade and look at where we can improve, those things can become journal articles. Those things can become book chapters. Those things can become workshops. Those things can become maybe training videos or trainings on certain things. So it's not about us. It's not about, really, it's more about the people that really could benefit from what we're doing. As I mentioned earlier, we wouldn't be coming in a spirit of arrogance, but we'd be coming in a spirit of humility, being grateful for the opportunity to partner with people, to partner up with managers, to partner up with team leads, to partner up with people, to understand what we can do to make a company better and make a company strong to the point that these companies can become profitable. And able to overcome all these issues. And once they can overcome these issues, they become functioning, healthy organizations to where there is no little to no turnover at all.
So I believe that the greatest qualities that you said that should be there for every organization in the world and the people who are working in organization. Uh, I believe that at least 1 or 2% qualities that I have. So what do you say about seeing my videos, me talking with hundreds of people who are into different professions, who are into different parts of the world?
I've looked at your Instagram when you have those interviews, and one of the things that I see is that you're willing to have conversations with people around the world. They may not know who you are, but you are willing to have these conversations. And with all the stuff that has happened in the last year, this is what needs to be happening. And it needs to be happening in a environment to where people are not talking over or at each other, but with each other. The idea of just talking about different things, and also, even though we have all these restrictions, all these issues because of our current crisis, and we have to sort of be careful with that, the fact that we can even chat using Skype or using Zoom and talking to each other, the fact that we can actually do that, and I'm in North Carolina and you're in India, is even in and of itself a good thing. So when you're talking to these people, it's not just benefiting those individuals, but I think, well, not think, but I believe it benefits you because it broadens your perspective on how the world is. And if we have more of this in the next couple of years of these conversations, then I think we're looking towards a more healthier future for our planet because we could eradicate, for instance, racism if we just have these conversations. There is I think, an NFL star, I forgot his name, that he has started to do this. And what's interesting is he's doing it during this pandemic, which is very impressive towards me. To me, another person is Lisa Fields, and she is a black female scholar that started and founded the Jude 3 Project. And the Jude 3 Project, her goal is to talk to people that don't necessarily agree with her theology, but are willing to discuss things such as homosexuality in the church. Things She has a series of individuals that have left the church dealing with church hurt, and she was willing to have and bring those who are in for a courageous conversation on those issues and give them space to be as really honest as they can be for their spiritual growth and for their healing. So that's that kind of thing. When I looked at some of the things, just look at some of the thumbnails on your Instagram, you talk to people, not just with people like myself, but one thing that stuck to my mind is you talk with a filmmaker about an experience that he had. And I listened to a few minutes of that conversation. So what you're doing is a good thing. And I think, or I believe, that you should continue to do this. I think it's good for your mental health. It's good for my and other people's mental health. And it just gives us ability to share our thoughts outside of our normal context. So what you're doing is wonderful. I encourage you to keep doing this. And I think that in the future, the networks are going to look at your YouTube page and they may ask you to do this more formally. This has happened to a lot of YouTube people, people like Doja Cat, who is now blowing up the pop charts right now because she used to do cow videos, and she went from that to now collaborating with different people and coming out with an album, has been on several award shows and come out with some really good music videos. So really what you're doing has the potential of being picked up by the major networks. That is not out of the realm of possibility, because this is something that is needed in our culture. It's just the ability to just have conversations, period. Some people cannot even converse without going to shouting matches. But here you ask good questions and you ask my thoughts and perspectives on things, and I'm able to share those perspectives in a space to where it's not necessarily a quote unquote safe space, but a space to where I can speak my mind and speak it in a way that might impact somebody, because a young person might see this and might want to, another person that may not even think about I want to complete my education, they see this and they want to do that. And I see my 2 interviews with you doing just that. So I believe you should continue to do this. If you want me to come to and do future interviews with you, I'm very open to that, because as doctoral students, you want to share. You don't want to share everything and bore people, but you want to share some thoughts and put some doubts out there, and then other people can take those thoughts, look at those thoughts, and trace those things and work through those topics themselves. So I would say continue to do what you're doing, because I think it is a great thing that you're doing for society.
So thank you, sir. Definitely, I will keep your words in my mind, and also the important points that you said in the entire conversation of ours today will make a lot of people to think and implement for themselves, who are from anywhere, who are not only from a particular profession, from any profession that they watch or that they listen. At least one thought of yours may change their life or make changes in the decisions that they are making. So because you're not a normal person, you are spending a lot of time in studying things. So you have a vast knowledge, you have a deep knowledge about everything that you are saying. I can understand that. I'm sure the organization where you are going to in, it is going to be one of the top organizations in the world, because having you kind of people uh, having that in-depth knowledge, talking about the small points with very clearly, very openly, and understanding it. It shows, you know, it tells me that you are a scientist. You understand things. You make things possible. You know things, what works to develop and for the productivity, for the development, and which are constructive. All these, you made this conversation to a higher level. It is not a it is not a small video for me. It is a very important and intellectual video, and the discussion that I had in all my experience. So definitely, when I get your valuable time again, whenever you want to share something that is very important, or something that you want to share, I'm ready anytime. Even if I don't be in India, I will be working in other countries also, as a IT director or in any profession. I will be open to talk with you and have the great conversations and talk about anything and learn from you. At the same time, I will tell something that I know. I don't have enough experience like you, have a broad perspective like you, but whatever the limited resources or the limited knowledge that I have, I will try to have uh, conversation with you. It's a pleasure talking with you, and thank you for giving me a valuable time. Sorry, I made you wait for some time because of some reason, but you took time to talk with me and share all these things to the world, to the people who are following me, who are uh, who are listening to this. You know, it's not a, small thing. Thank you very much. It's a night time for you. It's almost night time for you. You didn't sleep. And, you said all these things. I really salute for what you did for me. And thank you very much. I will meet you soon again.
All right, thank you for the opportunity, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Can I put this video on my YouTube channel?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, on my social media podcast, internet,
Yes,
website, everywhere with your permission.
you do have my consent to do that.
So thank you, sir. Keep doing what you love. I'm sure your thoughts and your ideas and your experience will definitely create something which has not existed before.
Okay, thank you very much, and I will keep your words in mind. And as things come up, as I go through the process, I'll be very willing to do any future interviews because that this benefits me because even though we have discussion boards and we have a Facebook group, it's always good to look outside of the program and deal with people that are not in the program that you can bounce those ideals off of. So thank you for the opportunity.
So take care, sir. Keep going. Keep doing what you love.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.